Wow, that's some good quality audio.
That was that was perfect.
Perfect is the word.
It's perfect.
Hello, Ron,
Good evening, Jeff,
and good evening, Dana.
wherever she is
Uh-huh.
in the shadows.
Yes, lurking,
Deep
waiting for
state
that
agent.
moment.
Deep state agent.
Happy early Thanksgiving.
Happy. Yeah, no, thanks. Oh, that might be a good topic.
I don't know. Do you know what the holiday is for or about, Ron? This is kind of a trivia thing that some people don't know.
Enlighten me, please.
No, no, it's more fun for you to be wrong and then me to point out that you just got duped by your culture.
Okay. So, the way I currently celebrate Thanksgiving, forget about its origins. It's a holiday where our families get together and we give thanks, right?
Yeah? Yeah.
And we eat and we celebrate. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's
I,
I
I've
didn't
I've
ask what you
heard
do. Oh, go ahead.
I've heard rumors about the origins of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
One of them being that it was a time where settlers and natives have gotten together and broken bread, and that became the tradition. That's why we're celebrating it. Not a whole lot of information behind that, but that's all
Yeah.
that I've heard.
I'm
Um,
sorry. My wife has some urgent information. Oh, here. Dana, Dana's here. Here she is.
Sorry, just emergency in the neighborhood.
what
Well, we still live in the hood, sort of. Oh, no. Anyways, I'm so sorry. I just wanted him to secure the home because of the police calling down from the helicopter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I get it.
You know, bad guys can't come over for the holidays.
I understand.
Um, Sorry for the disruption. It's just they're really close. Do you get that where you live?
Um, what? No, not really.
Lucky you.
I mean,
Lucky. Must be nice.
well, I mean, it's not as densely populated. There's a lot of different factors. Is it stuff goes on, plenty of stuff happens. It's just that, when you have a city that large, your needs to be able to control and take care of those situations, obviously intensify as well.
Yes, but I completely derailed the train of thought. So you get back on that train and you take us where we're going.
Okay. Uh, was that it? Well, we were going to talk about Thanksgiving, but are you joining the call now?
I guess so. I was trying to keep the baby chill. I guess she can handle the show.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
relief to know she's not part of the deep state.
Yeah.
I mean, if they got to her, imagine how deep that really goes. If they even got to, if they had gotten to a baby.
Oh, don't be surprised. I mean, yeah. Just because that's not currently manifesting doesn't mean it's not a factor.
You mean my baby could be part of the deep state and it's
Could
not manifested yet? That's pretty sinister, Ron. She's just 7 months old.
could be a very well be a deep state agent. Give her some time.
I don't even. That's very. That's really high level spying, I guess. Your own
No, that's
baby.
that. You're we're talking about spies at levels that probably are, for the most part, unimaginable.
No, that
Right?
is. I mean, she was born at a birth center, so not even in the hospital. I mean, where would they have gotten to her? Maybe my mom, like through my mom, mother-in-law.
No,
She's not even in daycare.
maybe she was predestined.
Hello,
Yes.
this is Dana. What were you saying?
So
He was saying that maybe the deep state might have infiltrated Sarah, the baby.
Makes sense.
yeah.
No,
If they can orchestrate 9/11, they can do anything.
Well. Oh, that's what I love about you guys.
So the police are hovering around, not quite over our heads, but a little off to the side, telling I think somebody to come out that they're going to arrest them, or
Great.
for us to stay inside, or that
For us
there's
to stop this
a
show,
radioactive release and everyone has to flee, or that there's a fire and we must evacuate. I'm not really sure what. It's hard. It's all garbled. So I'm just going to close my curtains and hope it's okay.
Okay, so Jeff, do you think it's coincidence or not that this happened right when the radio show started? I mean, right when this show started.
That's the thing. It's all sort of making sense. It's not hard to connect the dots. You know what I mean?
No,
It's
not
like
at
one
all,
of those little kindergarten puzzles where they tell you to connect the dots, but you don't even need the numbers. You can already see what it is.
And very easy to put together.
Yeah.
So, Dana?
Yes.
Deep state agent?
Deep state Dana?
Deep state. Deep state Dana. You sent a video of the GOP Jesus.
Yes.
Do you recall?
I do recall.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny. So I thought, I mean, we could probably incorporate Thanksgiving into these kind of ideas, but I thought that was a pretty interesting video. Pretty common. I would say that's pretty common satire coming from the progressive side of politics, the liberal side of politics.
I gotta say, what's really interesting is that video was shared by two different people, one of whom is known to us who will not name, but I'd say he's very progressive and not identifying at all with the evangelicals. But the other person who shared it would actually be, in a lot of ways, super conservative, like really conservative as far as biblical living, and doesn't participate in politics. And that they shared that too, this very conservative person. I mean, I thought that was really interesting that these two people could share that video. So not necessarily someone who's progressive would really or be behind that. Although, like, I agree with what you said. It's typically kind of like the progressive challenges, right, to the
Yeah,
evangelicals on the
yeah. I
conservative
mean,
side. But
certainly.
it was interesting to see that.
Well, I think it's designed and appropriately to resonate with conservatives, right? Because it's obviously directed toward their beliefs, right, or their widely held um, beliefs or accepted beliefs, right, in our culture.
Or a combination of the idea that they're Christian
Yeah,
and the widely held beliefs of conservatives, right?
yeah, yeah. So those two typically get paired together. Um, they go hand in hand a lot of times. But there are plenty of people within the conservative movement that obviously see problems within, the GOP, if you will,
Grand old
uh,
party, baby.
Grand Old Party. But here's what I'll say though. Here's what I'll say,
What will you say?
just from observation, that typically conservatives seem to be much more critical of the GOP than I think progressives, liberals would be of the Democratic Party, the Progressive Party, the Socialist Party.
Say it again.
Yes. Did you not
The,
hear?
the what?
Socialist Party?
No, but who's more critical of who about what?
I think the
I
deep
would,
state got to somebody in this show.
yeah. I would say that from observation, conservatives are much more critical of than I think progressives are of their party. Does that make sense?
Conservatives are critical of their own party.
Yes. They're more, they seem to be more critical of their own party than a progressive would be of their party. So progressives typically lean left, right? Socialist Party, right, leans left in one category. Well, from observation, the conservatives on their side, from what I've seen, are much more critical of the GOP and the corruption that happens within the GOP and all the inconsistencies and hypocrisy. It's I see it pointed out frequently from conservatives. Opposite of progressives and liberals and socialists when it comes to the Democratic Party. I don't see that same fervor when it comes to self-examination. And
Whoa, whoa,
that's just
whoa.
my own observation. Doesn't mean it's
Now,
true, but
maybe you're not paying attention to some of the other voices, like Tim Pool, I think, is critical of his own party. His name's Tim Pool. Dana would be able to correct me on that if I was wrong.
Yeah.
And then Joe Rogan, is that what it is?
Joe Rogan, yeah, yeah.
What's the other guy's name?
Well,
The guy
there's so
who
many
does I
other
saw
guys.
there's a guy who was talking to
Bill
Ben Shapiro
Bill Mayer.
and not Bill Meyer.
Yeah, you're talking about, well, Joe Rogan or Dave Rubin
Dave
would.
Rubin. Dave Rubin.
Okay.
Dave
Well, there you
Rubin,
go.
which sounds a lot like Joe Rogan. You know, if you just kind of like with your mouth while you're saying it.
Well,
Those two
if
I've listened to, and both of them seem to be pretty strong against their own party. But I'm sorry, I should not disagree with you, Ron. I don't want to give anything that would ever even hint at you being wrong.
huh,
So I apologize. I didn't mean to bring up those two very popular leftist people who continuously complain that their own party's lost its mind.
Have they? And do they? I saw a piece, another. Speaking of Joe Rogan, he will often. I don't know. I would tend to think he leans more left a little bit. He seems more in the center, but he does seem to lean a bit left. But he's actually brought up some very very interesting stuff. Bill, what's his name? Meyer, right? That TV
The
guy.
Mar.
Bill Maher. There you go, Bill Maher. He on occasions has brought up interesting things and has been critical. And on several occasions too. It's not just once, not just maybe even two times. I've seen a couple good handfuls of times where he's actually brought up some interesting points and has been critical. So I'm not saying, and I didn't say, I don't think I said that there aren't examples of progressives being critical. I just said from observation, it seems like conservatives seem to have a little bit more fervor in that arena. So I don't know a lot of people personally that are progressive and are critical of their party. On the opposite side of that, I know several conservatives, and I know them to be pretty critical of their party at times.
Maybe it's because the conservatives are all messed up and the liberals got it right.
Possibly. That could be the case, but that's decided through good conversations.
I think we're off task.
Yeah. So going back to the GOP Jesus, maybe Ron, you can share one of the little snippets that you thought was particularly relevant or thought-provoking, and maybe even Jeff, the master of technology, can pull up that segment if you want to talk more about it, because he did a lot of different, it's a parody of Jesus's teachings, turn though towards I guess the GOP platform.
Let me ask Jeff, are you able to play that
I don't
video?
think so.
Are you able to play it?
I think that would require too much.
Let's get her to a detention center, figure out what's going on.
This is the GOP Jesus. Can you guys hear it or no?
And you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. And behold, now I'm all lazy and entitled. You shouldn't have done that. Do unto others as you suspect they might want to do unto you. What is the man profited if he gain the whole world but lose his soul? A lot. He has profited a lot. What?
There you go.
Oh, hey, an idea for the audio.
Yeah.
Pull up a episode that the audio played correctly and play it like that. Play it like you just did that clip, because you could hear the clip. So, anyway, that beginning portion, you couldn't hear a lot of it. You couldn't see the visuals, but obviously it's directed toward, I think, Christians, right? Conservatives. Correct, Dana? Yes? No?
Yeah, some of them might be more like a GOP, like a current event issue. So, for example, when he picks up the child and he says something like, let the little children come to me, but we need to vet them first. They might be a murderer or something, and he shoos
Right.
the child away or hands the child off.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's probably pretty relevant to the, I assume, to the refugee issues, immigration issues that the GOP tends to advocate for a harder stance.
Right.
But then some of the, and maybe, but some of the other ones are just like kind of non-political. They're more just based on actions. He says, if somebody slaps you on the right cheek or on the left cheek or whatever, well, you pull out a gun and shoot them, something like that. And that
Right.
that could be a gun control thing, but also just a more of a personal lifestyle choice. So yeah, it's very there's just a lot to talk about in that
Yeah.
video.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could literally probably go down that video and just address all those issues, which might be a great idea if we could ever get that thing to really play in the beginning and then dissect it. Because I don't think really, there's a couple of different ways to approach this and take this, but I don't think for one aspect of this, you need to address any particular issue, but address the overall intent of the video. And I think the intent of the video is to point out what appears to be some hypocrisy from the conservative side of things, right?
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Oh yeah, that's the impression I got. Obviously, from people who are familiar with like the Sermon on the Mount and seeing some glaring misapplications. So whether they're just saying this is you evangelical Christians, or whether it's just saying, hey, this is the party you've chosen to align yourself with, and aren't they acting in direct contradiction to who you say is your Lord?
Right. So, I think being able to then that was I think clearly stated. And with that said, I would think based on that premise, and based on the premise that if it sounds like you're a Christian and that you're going to align with a political party that you would align with the more progressive or liberal Democratic Party, and you wouldn't align with the GOP, the Republican, or the Conservative Party. Is that another just kind of basic bottom line kind of premise?
Yeah, right? Sure. Or just even just you personally, how you're living out, how they observe Christians living out their faith or not. You know, I saw both of that, the political affiliation, but also just what they're doing with their lives. Like when he talks about, you know, gaining the whole world and how that's a lot, or I think another one was about what you should do with your, basically what you should do with your treasure. And he's the GOP Jesus says, you know, invest in a good mutual fund or something like that.
Right.
So that's more just like a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
Not so much a
If you want to
Democrat.
be perfect, go and sell all your possessions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that you have, and give the money to a solid mutual fund.
Well, no, it sounds like for me that the creators of the video, their intent was to point out some hypocrisy. Obviously, we've checked that off the box. The next item that we've checked off the box is the premise that if you are a Christian and you're going to align with a party, the the best kind of choice would be the progressive liberal or Democratic Party. So pretty sure we're able to check yes. I didn't get a complete agreement, but can I get that now?
Sure. And
I'll
I
give a
also,
maybe. I'll give a
well, maybe,
maybe.
and
Maybe.
I think it's also saying, hey, the Christians, if they are following Jesus, they should be this very generous, very into helping people, people who are sick, people who are in need of just whatever help, and
Right.
they should not be people who accumulate wealth for themselves and who are not going to use deadly force against their enemies.
Mm,
And that's
right.
and they're just kind of saying that's not who I see um, active and loudly talking in the Christian world.
I
I
do
think the
think
video is
these
saying
are.
we're not seeing that.
Well, I do think these are stereotypes of GOP positions, and so it's while it's funny, it's definitely a good little video. I do see it as over the top funny, like
No,
to make a
it's
to make a kind of a point, but it's also ridiculous too. Um, like these aren't GOP. It's not as though if you look at Hillary Clinton that she doesn't invest her money in a mutual fund, or that any Democrat would say that you shouldn't invest your money in a mutual fund. And there's some things going on here that are jokes, but I think it's also ridiculous at the same time.
yeah,
It's what is it?
yeah.
What is that? Like metaphor, but I don't know. It's over the top. What's it? What is it when it's over the top? Metaphor.
A lot of people like to call this kind of stuff irony, right?
I don't know if it's
Irony.
irony. I mean, it's ironic, kind of, but these are stereo. These are the things that are being said here are stereotypes. So
Well, like so, say for the not returning a slap with some type of greater violent force, would you say that you don't
the
see
Democrats
that
are
being
in
a
the
Democrat?
streets. The Antifa, which is the extreme left, is in the streets fighting people right now. Maxine Waters, said to find people, if you see people in public places to harass them, basically. Uh,
Yes.
I don't see.
A peaceful.
Uh, yeah, and I don't. Um, so what I'm trying to say is that was a comment about the different gun policies, right? In which typically the GOP is, overall is saying that the people should have the right to bear arms, and typically the overall liberal is saying that I'm not even sure what they're saying, but that
Dana,
there should be more there should be background checks and things like this. It's very rare to find a liberal who doesn't think that someone should be able to have a gun to protect themselves in their home. And so this is where, it breaks down. Like on a personal level, the liberals seem like violent people, just like the conservatives.
yeah. Dana, I don't know if you've noticed. I just a quick note, but Jeff, um, you seem to, at least from observation, be more willing to point out these things, these obvious truths, now than I've observed in the past, which I think is a positive thing
I don't know what
because
you just said. I'm more I'm more willing to point out obvious truths than I was in the past.
yeah, well, like the hypocrisy.
Oh,
I for whatever reason, it seemed like I could be wrong.
You mean when I used to drive around with my American flags on my truck? And I had my USA belt buckle?
And your gun in the back?
Oh yeah, my gun rack.
Yeah, your gun rack.
I don't know if I don't know what you're saying right now. I
Well,
don't know that I've
here,
always been very. I don't know if I've ever been incredibly patriotic or GOP.
no.
Oh,
What I'm saying, no, that's not what I'm saying at
No,
all.
he's
I'm
saying
saying,
about no, he's saying now you're willing to call out the liberals, and
yes.
before you were a big blue rhino.
Well, not a big blue rhino. I think I would say not a big blue rhino, but I would say that I would he was a lot more sympathetic toward that side for a while, it seemed like. And it seems
oh.
from, and again, I could be wrong because there's just certain platforms and occasions where maybe you weren't able to express those things. But
Yeah, I
in
think I'm an
other,
equal opportunity. I would hope that I'm an equal opportunity
yeah,
complainer.
well, it certainly seems to me that you're being fair. I think in pointing out some of the things you just did. So anyway, side note, but please continue. I'm enjoying.
Well, I'm just saying the word is hyperbole is I think what I was looking for earlier. Like I think it's hyperbole.
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
Yes.
But you saw the video and you proclaimed it, I think, very good. Like you thought it was very good.
Well, it's well done. It's great hyperbole. It's well
Yes.
produced. It's funny. It's Ron is a connoisseur of
Connoisseur.
a connoisseur of memes.
Yes.
And I think this is we'd have to ask him, but I think this is a great example of a well done little bit that gets its point across.
Yes, I would definitely agree. This was very well done. It was funny. It drives the point. I don't see a lot of that coming from the progressive side. So well done. This one was definitely well done, but it carries unfortunately the same thing that almost all their content does, and that is fictional characters. And so the satire isn't based on necessarily reality, isn't based on what you can observe. It's based on a fictional stereotype that exists, that's been created.
I don't know because I again drawing from Facebook, I can think of a number or at least a few of my evangelical friends or maybe old friends who do post pretty regularly very strongly GOP aligned content. And it's like there's no criticism. They're full on board. Full on board with Jesus and full on board um with Trump's agenda, the Republicans. So I think there are people who are. I mean, that video is highlighting real people from what I can see.
That's the thing. I think the conversation, I think should maybe go into a direction. This might be a couple parts, but I think should go into a direction where we're able to examine those issues and decide where, not for all times and purposes, but at least for the moment, right, where you would actually line up on those issues. Where would a conservative, where would a Christian line up on those issues based on the facts, based on not the hyperbole, not the fictional stuff, not the fear stuff, based on actual policy, based on actual events, based on actual
And
facts.
there is fear stuff in here, Dana. So just try to mix this all up. I mean, he says, but I say to you, any man who looks upon a woman with lust in his heart should go ahead and do what he's got to do. Now, Dana, is this a GOP stance? That
So
is this something that the Republican Party says that men should look at women lustfully and do whatever they want, basically?
yeah, so that was one point where I thought kind of fell flat. I
Well, for
assume that
you,
that's
maybe.
coming.
For
Well, no, I assume that
you,
that's coming from the Kavanaugh debacle,
I
right?
don't
Because
know. No, it's coming
that
from a
was
lot
the
of places. There's this idea
really.
that it's a stereotypical. This is what I was talking about, like hyperbole. Okay. I think so the meme or the cultural idea here that seems to be is that the Republican Party doesn't care about women. I think is the idea here. And then in that comes that's the idea. That's all. I think that's the idea that the Republican Party is
That's
like
the bottom
anti-woman,
line.
is
Yes,
anti-woman. But I don't think that's true. I just simply don't think that's true.
well, a lot of
But
that stuff just isn't true. Most of it's not true. Most of it's fiction. Most of it's a fictional GOP character that only exists now
in the minds of certain
in the minds. Now, Dana, um, just going back to the comment about the Facebook post and the Christians and being all for Trump and all that stuff. We haven't addressed though what the content of what they're posting. We haven't addressed, the importance of saying, okay, well, would that position, whether we like Trump or don't like Trump, or we think he's up at 3 o'clock in the morning, out of his mind, sending out tweets.
Oh,
I mean,
Fifi.
yeah, well, all that stuff. With that said, I think it's appropriate that we, stop, pause, and, for instance, this issue on women, the bottom line is correct what Jeff said, and that is Republicans don't care about women. And that's a well-known, that's not like a again, the when we're talking about the progressives and them making that statement, that's very well known. You can pull example after example of progressives making that statement that, conservatives don't like women, or Christians don't care for women, and they don't have women's interest in mind, and blah blah blah. It's all about males and all that stuff. On the opposite end, what the progressives are saying about the conservatives, about the Christians, all they're saying, they're making up this stuff that doesn't exist. They aren't even giving examples. Now, somebody like friends that we have, unnamed, right? We'll call them social justice warriors, will point out that
I like never mind. Just you can stay with that.
they will point out that you're a hypocrite if you support Donald Trump because of the statements that he's made about women and his past behavior and blah blah blah. Number one, you're taking a very complex issue and trying to boil it down into this label that everybody gets, and that's just not true. That's just not how things work. And that's the unfortunate part about like all this stuff. And even that video, although very well done, point well taken, very creative and funny, which is the best part about it. It's very funny. But reality, I'm not seeing it. For me personally, not seeing it. And I think we could take every issue. And problem is that video doesn't address that position's unbelievable hypocrisy.
Talking about the person that we're not talking about?
No, not the. I'm just saying that the creators of that video, what they're one of the biggest things that they're missing, along with a couple other things I just said. One of the biggest things that they're missing is, and this goes all the way around in this whole political argument, is the very clear hypocrisy in what they say. Because, you know, again, when we're talking about lies, when we use our social justice warrior friend as an example, that he will constantly talk about lies, right, coming from GOP candidates or, you know, the current president, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And it's like, okay, well, let's assume that's true. We can't just, you know, again, I would want to know specifics. I would want to know what all these lies are, but let's assume that's true. Assuming that's true and all these lies are coming from this person's mouth, the opposite end, you didn't care when all that lies were coming from the person that you're saying, if you're, you know, if you're a real true Christian, you would support this guy. If you're, you know, if your policy, or if your religion really lined up with true Christianity, you would be supporting this guy, because that's what they're saying.
Yeah, and what I thought was really interesting was that the other person who posted the video, the Christian, he from what I know of his church, and I mean, he has some teachings online. He teaches against participating in politics. So neither Democrat nor Republican, just doesn't advocate for voting at all. And he holds to a non-resistant position. So, like, if somebody were to start slapping him, I guess he would not slap back. He would not use. So definitely, he wouldn't be shooting people in response to that. And I know just from his postings about the refugees issues and immigration, he advocates for like, I mean, he's really opposed to the U.S. government shutting people out. I'm not sure exactly how detailed he'd go into, but he was really horrified about the separation of families. And so he aligns with a lot of the points being made in the video, like, you know, like what you're saying, how the video is kind of showing you basically you shouldn't be aligning with this party. I think he wholeheartedly agrees, even while maintaining a Christian faith. So I thought that was very interesting that was coming from.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that video was not shared with me by anybody else. I mean, you hadn't seen it before either, right?
I'd seen, no, not that, but I've seen other variations of it. I mean, people have done other things and they've made plenty of memes that point all those things out. So I mean, no, I hadn't seen that video, but I'd see plenty of other, and that's why I'm saying, that's why I know how widely held these things are. These, you know, these stereotypes and
stereotypes. Oh,
Disinformation.
can I give you some more info that's kind of fun? While you guys were chatting, I was looking it up. So Republicans and conservatives report donating between $60 and $160 more per year to charity than Democrats and liberals. This result holds even when we account for socioeconomic measures that are correlated both with political identity and charitable giving. The giving back, it says here another one, by voter registration, political party, Republicans give 54% of the giving versus 45 for the Democrats, so they're giving more. And then of people who volunteer for causes, Republicans are at 33 and Democrats are at 24. And there's something really funny here, and that is that both financially and with time, the Republicans are more generous people overall.
Did you say it was $60 to $160 per person?
No.
What is the
Average
actual
difference in the difference. So if I'm going to look at an equal income between me and you, and let's say you're Democrat, I'm Republican, then I'm going to be paying that much more on average.
It's still such a small amount, though. That's a small difference.
That's true. But I think it's interesting that, one, I don't fully understand that number because it ranges quite a bit, and it didn't make sense how you could do that over different income brackets. So let's just not question it, though, for a second and just step back and look at the forest here. The forest, I think, is interesting, is that in the video, for, again, going back to GOP Jesus, you have the people in another part saying, we have only this fish and bread, and walking up to Jesus, and he says, oh, sweet, and he takes it and goes away from them. And again, going back to what I was saying and Ron is talking about, these are stereotypes that the Republicans are these stingy people who don't care about people. But it's interesting that on the data shows that the Republicans, at least with their time and when their money, they're statistically more generous people.
Yeah, even if those percentages aren't there, even if there isn't a big spread there still is the fact that, based on the numbers, that this stereotype that they're putting out, when it comes to practical matters, it just isn't true.
Yeah, the video should be about the Democratic Party.
So, Jeffy Pie.
Yo,
and Ronnie, Ron. So do you see that somebody could hold the position that they are more generous, like they do advocate for more generosity than the GOP?
With other people's money.
Well, also maybe with their own money, like they could also, it could be, there's a lot of high income Democrats, like aren't they actually more skewed towards?
No, I've looked at it before. Now I can look for it right now too, but
I mean that they would be happily willing to have their taxes go to, like they would advocate for higher taxes for themselves. So they could say that is at least shows a willingness to be more generous. Maybe they're saving up for that moment when their taxes will go higher. And that's why they're not doing as much charitable giving now. I don't know. But someone could probably hold that position that they are the more generous party. They are just trying to go about it a different way than the Republicans who would advocate for more personal giving.
Well,
am I right?
I think it's fair to say that no, they're not more generous. No, they're not more inclined to try to be solution oriented. I think that their solution is, the government, and the solution for, more a conservative, typically, not always. And this is, again, one thing that's pointed out in the, conservative movement quite often, is that, from an independent, middle of the road, conservative kind of position, that these social issues should be more addressed, amongst people, in smaller units. And that charity should be given, to churches and nonprofit organizations to take care of, not the government. It's the solution that's the argument. It's not a matter of the willingness on people's parts, and that's what's deceptive about these things, because the video paints a picture that, you know, conservatives aren't interested in those things and they don't want to have solutions to those things, and that's just not true. Conservatives just have a different way of approaching it, and that is through the more, what some would argue, effective way of handling social issues, and that is getting big government out of the way and allowing, you know, these things to be addressed through, again, nonprofit organizations and churches and communities and smaller government units.
So would you say that a more blameless progressive would at this moment be personally giving a large amount of their funds, you know, be giving very generously, also while advocating for higher taxes and more government programs? That would be the blameless position.
That
for their perspective, and for the Republican or conservative or whatever to be more blameless is that they would be known widely as, you know, incredibly charitable people who provide just for their needs at a basic level, a frugal, humble level, and they give very generously with their excess. We know a family who, and I guess I didn't know if they were still doing it, but I guess they still are. They choose to live at the median income, which for our area I think is about $50,000, which maybe isn't, maybe that's, I mean, probably to a lot of families that's an incredible amount, but for high cost of living Southern California, that's actually the median. And so they choose to live at that level, and everything above that they give to causes that help the poor, because they have a typically high income. So that's really admirable. Like I think if that was like very common that you knew people like that, maybe.
So you're saying that these people are wealthy people, but they've chosen to take any excess above the median income and give it to chosen charitable organizations. Yes.
Yes, and I knew they were doing it like maybe like 8 to 9 years ago, but I wasn't actually sure if they were still doing it to this day, and it was kind of cool to see that they still are. I think I mean, maybe other people, maybe lots of other people are doing that quietly and humbly, but typically that's not what I've heard. It was refreshing to hear of a family like that, and they're a Christian family. So I think maybe if that was more like normal, then this meme wouldn't have the same weight that it does, because people would be like, no, the conservative evangelicals don't they're not selfish.
Well,
they don't spend all their money on themselves.
The meme doesn't hold weight though, because the behavior that the progressives display isn't anywhere near what they're saying that the GOP Jesus should look like. So their own examples of what they're saying that Christians should be doing and the GOP should be doing, they aren't doing those things. Those things don't exist in their world. And so I don't know where they're coming from. That's the problem.
And this is we were just talking the other day, Dana. Remember the whole adoption thing? The Christians are more likely to adopt. The Christians are more likely to consider foster care. The Christians are more likely, but people would say, but they're not doing enough based on their worldview. While at the same time, themselves are not doing those things. And it gets real interesting because what's going on there they I guess they can see the Christians have a view that we should love everybody. They see that there's not enough Christians, I guess, doing those things, even though more Christians are doing good things than non-Christians, and then they condemn them, even though those who don't hold belief don't do the act nearly as much. And it gets interesting to me because are they complaining that we're hypocrites and that's the end of it, or are they actually saying we all should be doing these things? Because if that's what they're saying, that's a completely different angle.
Yes, all of that, exactly.
But it's in the same vein. It's in the same vein.
Yeah.
Because, like I just said, the studies show. Well, I already said it, right? The conservatives in this case are more giving with their time and their money. So it has to do with something with policy. There's a lot of stereotypical things going on here, and it's becoming a video. And I think the video is great, and I think it should make everyone think about how aligned are we with the words of Jesus. Maybe that's why I like it, and I think it's important. And this is, here comes my GOP anti-side, Ron. Watch out. I think it's important that when we do frame things like, what do we do with people coming across the border? In the words of Jesus, sure seems like we'd be very careful to treat them the same as you would treat any other person on this planet, and that there is no citizenship, that people are not different, and so forth. Not saying that there shouldn't be any rules or laws or anything, but approaching the subject as everyone's equal, and like Jesus gives the example of the Samaritan specifically to point out that person who's different than you is your neighbor. So these more nuanced approaches to difficult subjects, where you say I love everybody equally, how can we deal with this complex issue? You don't get the feel from the public debate on the wall and these different things. You don't get that feeling. I don't know.
No, that's exactly well, and take issues like the immigration issue. Yes, you are correct. It should make you think. I think using caution when approaching the issue is appropriate, and examining, and having some humanity. But saying though that you shouldn't be concerned about who you let in to your country or
abolish ICE,
your land, to say that you shouldn't have borders. Again, I'm fascinated by the hypocrisy when it comes to that stuff, because they do all those same things. They've done all those same things. I don't know what they're talking about. Yes, in word they say this is what you should be doing and this is what we believe, but in practice that's not what they do at all.
Including having houses and walls and security guards and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. But I do think the video's thought-provoking. And funny.
So I mean, if you take issue by issue though, right? It would be interesting to go down each issue that it addressed and decide which party would actually more represent, which party displays the side. If you had to pick, you don't have to pick, but if you absolutely had to pick as somebody, you're in the faith, you're a Christian, and you have no choice. You either go with the Democratic Party or you go with the Republican Party.
Well, Dana might have another option, but
well, let's just do those two. Those two. Of course, there's other options, but just for the sake of conversation, saying you have one choice you have to make, and it's either this or that. It's either the right or the left. It's either conservative or liberal. You have to make that choice on each of those issues. And more specifically, you have to say, I'm going to put in my plug on this side of the paper. Now, what becomes interesting is because if you take each of those subjects and you go down the list, I think it would be fascinating to find out which party would actually be most appropriate to align with. Which party more represents
All right, here we go.
each of those ideas.
Ron wants to do it. Truly I say unto you, whoever welcomes one of these little ones in my name might be letting in a murderer or a drug dealer. Let's get her to a detention center.
Did Dana disappear?
Until we can figure out what's going on.
Did she disappear?
I disappeared, but then I came back.
All right, so Ron has said you have to choose Democrat or Republican, Dana, and you have no third option. As a conscientious objector, I know that this is going to be challenging for you.
Just answering the question is challenging. Yeah, so currently I've decided to not pick either, but
this is a whole show in of itself.
But for years, though, while I have sided with the conservative Republican agenda, and it's especially with the last election.
How did yourself?
Wait, what? Wait, what's going on here?
So
I thought
even with the last election, I couldn't bring myself to vote for Trump for two reasons. But I really, if that his points or his agenda or whatever is what I'm most aligned with. Again, if I had to pick one, I would have, if I had to vote or the whole, I guess, or I would be killed along with all of my family, or I don't know, just if I had to vote, I would have voted for him. And the reason is because at least with their agenda, I am more likely to be able to freely practice my religion. They're more likely to leave me alone. And all I want to do is be able to freely practice my religion, educate my children, which for us, the only real option is homeschooling if we want a religious influence education, because we really can't afford private Christian school. And I just know the Republicans are just more likely to leave me alone. And that's why I vote conservative. I'm not looking for them to give me anything or do anything for us. I just don't want to be, I just don't want those liberties to be taken away. And with the Democrats, especially in California, they're the ones most likely to challenge homeschooling in particular. They're the ones who introduce bills to make it harder to do it. And those are just when I see restrictions on what pastors can say in churches, especially regarding homosexuality, the Democrats are the ones who are most likely to intrude on those rights. So that's why I would vote conservative if I had to vote. And that's why I think a lot of evangelicals side with conservatism, because they kind of see it as the Babylon Bee did some satirical news story that was just perfect. And they said that with the 2016 election, evangelicals or Christians or something like that, but basically they have the option of siding with the party that makes a mockery of their faith or siding with the party that is openly hostile to their faith. And that's kind of how I see it. I think they're pretty close to, I think they're pretty, I guess, right on with that assessment, in that the Republicans, like GOP Jesus, they're kind of like a cartoonish or maybe anyway, there's a lot to mock there. And then with the Democrats, though, there's open hostility.
Well, open hostility, and take each of those issues, and within the GOP, within the conservative, at least just for the moment, you have the ability, broaden what you just said, in almost every category, you have the ability and the freedom to hold a different opinion, or to have explore different options without some, I would say, hostile consequences.
Yes. So, for example, like caring for the poor, say typically the Republicans are not going to try to expand the social services available to the poor through taxation. They're not likely going to try to do that as much as the Democrats will. But they leave you the option. You can choose to give away 50% of your income with, under their structure of government. You have the freedom to be as, to give away as much as you want, to establish programs and do that. And that's freedom. I think that's really cool. Where with the say with the Democrats, with higher taxation and things like that, somebody who does want to give to maybe who wants to give to the poor in different ways or wants to do it through a church group, would have less money to do that with. They'd have less choices. So anyway, long answer to it, but yes, I would vote conservative just because mainly because I just want to be left alone. I want to be able to homeschool my children, and I'd like to have churches I'm part of not be. I mean, like in other countries, pastors get fined or jailed for hate speech. I'd prefer that not to come here.
That's right. That is all correct. And so if you go down those issues, though, that's what's so deceptive about that video.
But the video does hit a soft spot for me. I'm a big softie because even with those statistics that Jeff brought up, I do feel a sensitivity or a nagging, a clear feeling that I'm not doing enough, say for the poor, or and I'd like to do more. So I see that video and I have conviction in some of those things that are brought up.
Yeah, and I think having self-examination is okay, and having that personal conviction is okay, but to blanket say that this is how conservatives are, and to paint a picture of them that is more true of the party that obviously the individual made that video is probably on the more probably on the more liberal progressive side. Well, they're more guilty. They're more guilty of the things that they're accusing the GOP of.
Maybe.
Well, I don't know. Not. I think if you try to step back and get at what it is they're trying to say, I don't know if that's the case. I think it's let's just say it's more complex than the video. The video makes a point and it's funny, but it opens with this idea that is a more aligned with the not just stereotypical, but the GOP idea with the girl, right? It says, let me read the line. It says, one of these little ones in my name might be letting in a murderer or a drug dealer. Let's get her to a detention center, until we can figure out what's going on. So is that more aligned with the Republican or the Democratic stance?
Can you say that again?
So it says, truly I say unto you, whoever welcomes one of these little ones in my name might be letting in a murderer or a drug dealer, I believe is what it's going to say. Let's get her to a detention center, until we can figure out what's going on.
So, what exactly is the solution then, okay, for that side? Let's just say that the person making the video.
Well, this is the funny thing about it, and I have to agree with you, Ron, no matter what you're saying, okay? No matter what. The funny thing about it is that both sides, I think, would say that when someone crosses the border, you have to take them to a detention center and deal with them, figure out who they are. And so that's the weird thing about all of this, all these things that are in the news. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, it's more it's more difficult than the news kind of portrays the sides. So I think both sides would say when someone crosses the border, you have to find out who these people are. You can't just let anyone in. I think that is a stance on both sides. So Jesus' reaction is the Democratic side and the Republican side.
Well, I think the
well, I
maybe not, Jeff.
Oh, so there's a side of this that says just open the borders and anyone who comes through don't even check them. Just let them come on in and out freely. Because I don't think there's a part of I think that the debate is over what you do once somebody has been checked out, as Jesus wants to do in this video, and after someone does this illegal. I think there's a debate as to what you do exactly. Do you separate the parents or not, and so forth.
Or do you just let them go on their own reconnaissance to come back for a court date? I think that's a clearly advocated for Democrat position.
So I could be wrong here, but the other side is saying when somebody walks across the border illegally, just give them a court date and let them go. Don't inquire anything about them at all.
Well, okay, I guess they wouldn't say don't inquire anything, but I think
don't
that
find out.
The push was for the whole catch and release idea. You, I guess, do some minimal vetting, right? And then you let them go into the country
to a detention center
to then process their asylum case. Yeah.
You're saying the Democrats don't think we should put them in a detention center and figure out what's going on before we let them go?
I guess they would.
I'm going to say that's not true. I'm going to say the Democrats and the Republicans, I think both sides would say we got to get them to a detention center and figure out what's going on.
Correct. Because where else would they go? Both sides.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So
that's not a GOP position. That's both sides' position.
And not only that, I could show you a video.
No. No.
I could show you a very fascinating video where somebody took quotes from Obama, Hillary, Bill Clinton, all the big players, and their stance on this particular issue and what they said about the vetting process and immigration and all of that. And the idea behind the video is, I'm going to give you a quote. You don't know who this is. Who do you think said this quote? So they said the quote, and it had to do with all these immigration things. And they were pretty what they would call tough stances, right, on immigration and vetting. And they were all quotes by liberal people. And so they would present them and say, oh, that must be Trump. And they go, nope, that was actually Hillary Clinton. Oh, that must be, Trump again, or George Bush. Nope, that was Bill Clinton. Nope, that was Obama. And so, yeah, exactly what Jeff's saying. The solution on both ends of this thing is the same.
Within this limited scope of this video. But again, the video makes the point. The video, what it's really trying to say, sorry to interrupt you, Dana, because you were breathing to take a speak at this, but the what it's trying to bring up is the different feeling on the position that you get from both sides.
Yes.
And that's accurate, Ron. The feeling you have. the feeling you have is accurate.
Yes.
But anyhow, I don't know. I was just looking at the next one. The next one is a little bit more challenging, and this could open up a can of worms. And we got to go, Ron. We're supposed to only go 20 minutes or something like that, Dana. Remember?
I know
Well,
this show's unstoppable,
It's unstoppable. But
but we have to stop it.
Maybe you can just say what it is, and then we'll continue next time.
But this is one that actually is a little bit more accurate. I was thirsty, and behold, sorry, let me get back here. All right, this is a good one. I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. And behold, now I'm all lazy and entitled, and you shouldn't have done that. That's a good one. And here's why I say that's a good one, because I have heard it's almost like a party line. On the GOP side, I've heard that said so many times, that if you just give people things, that they'll become lazy. And as a matter of fact, that's what happened. Is a lot of our problems are because we just give stuff. And I'm not saying my position on how I feel about it, but it is a commonly said thing on the GOP side that you can't just give people stuff.
Yes, but is it a matter of cold-heartedness? Is it a matter of...
I don't know. I think it's really interesting because Jesus did say the opposite of that one, and that one is a good one. That is a gotcha one. I don't know how you cannot give that one a gotcha, because I've heard numerous times from conservative people say an identical version of that basic idea, that if you just give things to people that they're going to become lazy and entitled. And
well,
people say it. That's
true. That's true. But is that based on empirical evidence? Is that based on what you see? Is that based on what you can put your hands on? Is that a truth, or is that based on they're just cold-hearted people? That's why they're saying it.
I'm just saying this one is a good one from the video because I've heard it so many times. I've just heard it so many. I grew up with it, as in assuming my family is representative of some of the GOP party. Someone me and Dana know personally says this same thing. I've heard it. It's top secret. No names. I'll give you a hint. Their name starts with a letter in the English alphabet, and it ends with more letters in the English alphabet.
That's great.
Yes. They were visiting our home on Saturday.
Oh wow.
Anyhow, so it is one that you hear. It is one that you hear. And it's worth talking about. It's interesting.
Yes. Well, maybe for next time, can I share a little ditty that kind of goes along with maybe GOP or distorted Jesus that was just really fun?
Oh, please.
So today our 5-year-old had an incident where where a little boy who she was playing with, or not, I don't know. Anyway, he basically just called her stupid. And so she, because I could see her, I couldn't hear her, but I could see her out the window, and she's pointing and kind of doing a little sassy shake. So I thought, oh, she's being bad. So when I asked her about what happened, she said that she was calling him stupid. Like, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid. And so I talked about how that wasn't a good response to what he said. And I was trying to go through some better responses to somebody being mean to her. And she said that she decided to call him stupid because she thought of Jesus saying, do to others what you would have them do to you. And I just said, that's not what that means.
Well, you you have to give it to her.
So, more teaching. There's just more more teaching we got to do there. But we thought that was precious.
That's precious.
Sounds like we got another 2 or 3 shows all lined up with this GOP Jesus.
Oh my.
Yeah. Actually, because I really do, Jeff, think that that issue that you just brought up, I think it does need to be discussed in further detail, because you're correct, that is a big one. That is a big one. But to say that it comes from the place where the video is saying it comes from, that's deceptive.
All right.
Adios.
Goodbye. Oh, you know what?
What?
I just realized something. I thought you were starting the show later and didn't realize you guys are on a different time zone now.
Wait a minute.
What?
We're not on this. So wait, you're always on daylight savings time?
Yeah, we don't change at all.
We're in the show now.
Is it 10:09 there?
No.
You had to come back for that, huh?
Oh yes, it is 10:09.
Oh my.
Wait, so you guys